All right, another comment, but that's all right. I'm gonna go full boomer here. Okay, that's exactly the problem. You can't speak without thinking. You can't speak without thinking unless you have lots of comprehensible input first. No, you can never speak without thinking. You should think before you speak. That's even in your native language, you should think before you speak. Anyway, speaking progress comes super rapidly and better with a pure input first approach. And I asked why, and then to get a better result. Language interference is a widely recognized phenomenon in the world of language acquisition. While the causes and characteristics of interference aren't completely known yet, I think it's possible to reduce the interference. This guy talks like he outsources all his thinking to ChatGPT. Just I asked why, and it's like, okay, paste in ChatGPT, give me an answer to this. That sounds smart. Basically, what he's trying to say is that you can't speak before you do a lot of input. Yeah, his whole point is that you have to do hundreds of hours of input before you start to speak, which is not true. Yes, you should do input if you want to understand a language and speak it well. Input is great for you. Do it. But you don't necessarily need to do it if you want to. You don't need to do hundreds of hours of input before you can speak. You can start speaking from day one. Write down some sentences and learn them. You can use language islands. You can learn them from any kind of SRS system. Take sentences for somewhere and just listen and repeat them aloud. Translate from your language into the target language, and you just write down what you want to say and translate it, and then you practice saying it until you can say it, and you will be able to say a lot of stuff by doing that. And you don't need hundreds of hours of input to do that. By the way, I can see some. Yeah, look like a nerd with the glasses. Not that I'm not one, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, you don't need to do hundreds of hours of input. Just do 3, 6, 12 months of input, and then eventually you should. Why? If you want to speak, you mostly want to learn the language to speak to people. If you live in let's say you move abroad, learn a few practical. This is the language islands technique, by the way. Learn a few practical sentences for all the likely scenarios. Memorize them, practice saying them, and then go out and talk to people. Why not? Or if you're doing it from home, you can learn a bunch of sentences, practice saying them, get someone to do a language exchange or a tutor online, and talk to them with all the sentences that you use in the sentences that you memorize, and then the conversation will flow from there. If you're mostly interested in speaking, then practice speaking. Learn sentences and practice speaking. You don't necessarily need to do lots of input before you start speaking. That's just one way of doing it. And if you're not interested in doing lots and lots of input, then don't do it. It will help you. If you do lots of input, you will speak better and you understand better, right? But it's not compulsory to do hundreds of hours of input, months and months of input before you start speaking. That's nonsense. Anyway, do whatever you want to do, whatever goals you have. This is what you should be asking yourself. What do I want the language for? If your goal is to get to a C1, C2, yeah, there's a huge gap between C1 and C2, but whatever. If you want to go to a really high level and you want to work in the language and almost sound like a native speaker, etc., yeah, you will need hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of input. If you just want to be able to chat to people, just go to a Chinese restaurant and talk to them and do that kind of stuff, or approach foreigners in the train station and talk to them in the language. Just learn the lines for that and then do it. And you can do that even for longer conversations. Just do whatever suits you. Don't need to do anything. Do this. A language is divided in several different sub skills, and they are related to each other. Yeah, if your listening comprehension is really good, it's likely that the more your listening comprehension improves, it's likely that your pronunciation also improves and your speaking improves. On the other way around, if you work on your pronunciation, your listening comprehension will also improve. If your vocabulary improves by reading, speaking will improve because the more vocab you have, the better you can speak, etc. But the sub skills, they're related, but it doesn't mean that it all happens in a specific order and that you always have to do everything the same way. Yeah, no, each sub skill can be improved with specific exercises. And if you want the language for a specific thing, then work on the things that improve those skills. Yeah, you mostly want to read in the language, then learn vocabulary and read. If you mostly want to watch shows, then learn vocabulary. Again, you always need vocabulary, and then watch shows and listen to podcasts that will help you understand the shows better as well. If you do a lot of listening, if you mostly want to speak, yes, you will also benefit from watching stuff, listening. Yeah, you need to improve that as well, vocabulary, comprehension, etc. But you can start to speak from day one. Nobody's stopping you, and you don't need to wait for months and do hundreds of hours of input. That's just another myth that people. I don't know where they get these ideas from, but anyway, if you're mostly interested in speaking, don't listen to that stuff. Just learn sentences and try to talk to people, and you'll be fine.